Hello children, how are you? Hope you people are doing well in your studies and also taking good care of your health and following all the health precautions in this pandemic time. You are also taking good initiative for spreading awareness about this pandemic to your near and dear ones as a responsible educated student of AIS. Well, now let's come back to our upcoming chapter. But before that, let's have a quick review of few questions related to this chapter from your previous classes. Now, children, let me know how things in our surrounding is classified. Yes? Good. You are right. It is classified under the tag of living or biotic and non-living or abiotic things. Now again, tell me, what do we exactly mean by this biotic and abiotic or living or non-living things? Again, very smart. Yes, you are right. Living or biotic means things that possess life, and in the otherwise, non-living or abiotic means things that do not possess life. For example, human beings, plants and animals are living, whereas sand, rocks and mountains are non-living. Now, let me give you a small test. You can see in the above picture and tell me what such characteristics you can see that will help you to know that a particular thing is living or a particular thing is non-living. Like, what is that characteristics that help you to know that the things are living or non-living? Yes, children, you can. Come on. Start recalling your previous classes. Okay, now you got it right. Living beings grow, reproduce, eat, move, and so on. Whereas non-living things or abiotic things do not possess any such characters. So now, as we know that growth is one of the most important characters of the living things, then what is that term growth? Yes, growth means to increase in size in terms of height and weight. So all living beings, all animals, all plants grow, but before they grow, they need to take birth. Now children, as we know that we are clear that after taking birth we grow. Similarly, non-living things, as they do not grow but they are made up of the living things, or once they were the part of the living things, they are having very small units in them, and such units, small units, are termed as cell in the living things. So children, here you guessed it right. Our next chapter is all about cells. So children, in this chapter you would be learning about what is a cell, what is the common characteristics in all the cells, how cells come up, what is a cell theory, what is the cell size and shape, I mean to say, why are they so small or they are so big, what are prokaryotic, eukaryotic cells, and so on. So now let us have a quick introduction for our term called cell. Now, as we are talking about the term cell, let us understand what is this term. Cell is a basic, structural and fundamental unit of life. It is derived from the Latin word called cella, which means small room. It is the smallest unit of life that can replicate independently and are often called as the building blocks of life. Now let me make you understand this. Now we all stay in apartments, we go to school, we work in offices. All these buildings are made up of walls. Walls are made up of bricks, and bricks are the main or the smallest unit of these buildings. Now children, as we now understood that bricks are the unit of or the smallest unit of these buildings, similarly you may recall that when you were young, or if you have any small brother or sister, you might be seeing them playing with this kind of building blocks. Now each block of that building is termed as the unit of the complete apartment. Similarly, we are also made up the smallest unit of life, that is the cell. And when we get life, each cell that is specialized to carry out these special functions group together to form tissues that are similar in shape and function. Now each tissues again combine that into an organized larger structure that have the same function called as organs, and each organ again get related to each other, making an organ system. And this is how we or the living beings such as plants, animals or human beings possess life. So now I guess you are now clear. Cell as the smallest unit of the living beings and is known as the structural and functional unit of life, because again it is divided into two kind of organisms, that is unicellular and multicellular. Now before we understand what is unicellular or multicellular, let us understand what exactly do you mean by organisms. Any living thing or anything that can live on its own is called an organism. It can be made up of at least one cell, and then it can continue with numerous cells. So, organisms that are made up of only one kind of cell is called as unicellular organisms. For example, bacteria, yeast or amoeba. Unicellular or the single-celled organisms have only one cell, and they are mostly found to be seen through microscope. They are most abundantly found organisms on earth, and their only cell is able to perform all the life processes, and this cannot be viewed by our naked or unaided eyes. On the other hand, multicellular organisms are made up of two or more cells. They are being able to see through our naked or unaided eyes, that means without microscope we can see them. These organisms need all parts of itself to survive, and we are considered to be as multicellular organisms. Now I guess you people are cleared. The cellular organization is cell combined to form tissue, tissue combines to form organ, and organs combine to form an organ system. Now this organ system makes up an organism, and we are that multicellular organism. Now since a long time I am talking about cell. Now from where this term cell came up? Cell was discovered very long before. Remark, it is discovered, not invented, because invention means when you find something new, but discovery means thing that is already existing and you have founded it out. So the term the thing cell was discovered. In the early contribution of the cell theory, Sir Robert Hooke was the first person to see cells, and he named those compartments as cell. Along with Sir Robert Hooke, Anton van Leeuwenhoek observed cells in pond water, which he named as animalcules. Now let us understand how this term cell was coined, or how the term cell was discovered. Sir Robert Hooke in the year 1665 is an English scientist. He took a slice of cork, that is an oak, a plant cell, and he kept those cells under a compound microscope. What did he observed? He observed very tiny hollow room-like structures, just like a beehive or just like the rooms where the monks live. He not only saw that, but he also saw a little boxes like structure, which he later named it as cell. So Sir Robert Hooke was the first person to name this building blocks as the term cell. So this term cell was coined by Sir Robert Hooke. He was not only the man who coined the term cell, but he also wrote and published Micrographia and was known as the English father of microscopy. Now, later in future, in the year 1838, a German botanist named as Matthias Seiden concluded that all plants are made up of cell. Now, Seiden is a co-founder of the cell theory. Along with the German botanist Matthias Seiden, there was another German scientist who studied animals, that is, who was a zoologist, saw that all animals that he studied were also cellular, and he concluded that animals are also made of cells. Finally, one of the other co-founder of the cell theory, that is Sir Rudolf Virchow, who was born on October 1821 and was a German pathologist who is also known as the father of pathology, discovered that all living cells came from the other living cells, that is the pre-existing cell. That means whatever cells are being produced is the developing from the cell that is already present. And then universally the cell theory got accepted, which stated that all organisms are made up of one or more cells. All cells come from pre-existing cells, and the cell is the basic unit of structure and organization that performs all the life functions and processes. Okay, now let us start understanding that cells are also differentiated into various specialized forming functioning cells. That process is known as cellular differentiation. Cellular differentiation is also known as cell specialization. That means each cell is developed of non-specialized cells into the cells with specialized functions. For example, as muscle, liver, or red blood cells. As organisms grow and develop from fertilized eggs, organs and tissues develop to produce a characteristic form, which is known as morphogenesis. Both the process are controlled by gene expression. That means the gene that is present in your body. We'll get to know about it later in the chapter. In the same chapter we will understand, but later on. Now let us understand why it is important. Why cell differentiation is an important part of the development. Because one kind of cell cannot perform all the activities required for life in a multicellular organism. Hence, to perform the complex system of the life, your cells divide themselves for performing specialized functions. For this, different cells have different shapes and size. Now let us understand it properly. Now you can see in this picture that from the stem cells, that means the singular cells, how different tissue system were born: muscle, blood, nerve, cardiac, liver and intestinal cells. Now cell shape differ not only in different organisms but also from organ to organ in the same organism, and the shape may be different, like spherical, cuboidal, fiber, hairy, polygonal, or different kinds of shape. Similarly, depending upon the functions that the cell is going to perform, depending upon the shape of the function of the cell size also differs. The size of the organism is due to the number of the cells present in them. For example, as the pneumonia cells of the organisms called as mycoplasma is about only 0.1 micron, whereas the largest cell is the ostrich, that is the ostrich egg, which is about 170 in diameter, which is the largest cell in the world. So size of the cell depends upon different organism to organism. In the upcoming section, you will see the different size chart of the cell. So here in this chart, you can see how there are different cell types in your body and how its diameter or the number of the cells differing. Okay, now let us move to the next part of the chapter, that is the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. The prokaryotes and the eukaryotes are absolutely different among each other. Now let me give you a brief picture about it to you. Now have a thorough look to the diagrams that is given in front of you. Basically, prokaryotes are the cells that have no true nucleus. Their genetic material is found in the nuclear area and is not separated from the other cell organelles by any membrane or dividing sheet. They are generally smaller than the eukaryotic cell and are usually unicellular organisms. For example, bacteria. Similarly, eukaryotes are characterized by having the genetic material contained within a nuclear membrane. That means they have a well-defined nucleus within them. They are larger than prokaryotics and they are more complex cellular organisms and have variety of internal membranes and structures called organelles. For example, fungi, protistas, animals and plants are all eukaryotic animals. Basically, if you understand, they are almost multicellular in structure. Now here in the picture, I have given you a brief idea about the difference of the eukaryotic or the prokaryotic cells. You can get a brief idea about their differences and you can understand it properly. Still, if you have any doubt, you can reach it out to me in the chat section of your MCB app. Till then, stay safe. Goodbye. Thank you.